Dan, good to see you.
Hey, Mike, good to see you.
Yeah, I've been meaning to tell you that forming die has been a blessing. You really helped me out by creating that.
Glad to hear that. I'm glad our design worked out for you and that it's doing what it should do. That's always our goal, and if it don't, we'll keep working with you till we get it dialed in to where it needs to be. Yeah, I took your blank and basically, made the flat pattern version of it. And then I went in and tried to play around with making the curved portion of which I have in here. That's what I end up using for your mold. We did the initial cuts on the CNC. Then I went back and looked at it again to see, does it match what you have? You're measuring with our inspection tools and stuff, radiuses and angles and all that stuff, trying to get it as close as possible. Then I just compare it to the actual sample.
You got it right. Yeah. I'll tell you, these things swim perfectly.
Good.
They've got just the right amount of wobble to them. I can fish them so many different ways.
Hi, my name is Anissa. I'm head of sales here at D&B Fabrication, and I invited Mike, who is one of our customers, here today to kind of explain how we helped him with his special project.
Thanks for having me, Anissa.
Yeah, no problem.
So about 5 years ago, I had a buddy of mine who was a tool and die maker create this blank for me here. So I originally made the master myself. I hand cut the whole thing. He created a CAD file for it, and then he cut it out on a wire EDM machine. And he made me 144 of these things, which at the time I was hand cutting these things by hand. I had 144 of them. It was the best thing in the world. And then eventually I came across this new process of painting them, which you'll see here on this rainbow trout here. So I started burning through the blanks that he had made me really quickly. So then I hit him up on Facebook, and he's like, oh, sorry, I lost my job, I've got a divorce, and his whole life
struggles.
Yeah, so he's like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do it. So I started emailing people, and they would have interest at first until I would tell them, I only need a few $100s worth of these things, and they're like, I'd never hear anything back from them. So, and then one day I just happened to come across your guys' website using Google. I was searching Google, for any type of metal fabrication site. And one thing that struck me on there was that no job is too small. So I sent Brian an email, sent him pictures of this thing, just kind of showing him, hey, this is what I need cut out. Do you guys have the means to do that? And Brian, optimistic, oh yeah, no problem. We should be able to do that, How many do you need? And I thought, oh, here we go. I only need about 100 of them, and he came back, oh, that's fine. Minimum order is $250. No problem at all. And at the time, as you can see here, I didn't have holes punched in them. I had to manually punch all those holes in these blanks, which is a little tedious, and if they're a little off, things just don't look right. So Brian was able to not only cut the blanks perfectly to match, but he's also able to cut the holes perfectly. So that cut out a huge step for me and really speeds up the time for me. Yeah, I would use my fingers. So once I would hammer this thing, and it's kind of a funny story. So they're so tiny, what type of hammer do you use to hammer these things, right? So my wife was given this lady's toolkit by her father. And in that toolkit was this hammer with this little wedge on the end of it.
I think I have one of those.
And it worked perfectly for me to hammer a concave shape into this thing. And then I would just use my fingers to bend it, to give it this signature bend that I have here. And, it's not bad, but when you've got 100 of them to do, it's quite a task. So eventually I got tired of doing that, and that's when I hit Brian up. What used to take me about 7 to 10 minutes for me to hand hammer a blank, I can now form 20 of them in about 7 minutes, effortlessly. So.
Yeah, they look amazing. I remember what was interesting about this project, I think, in my eyes, and kind of where we come from, where we started off doing big project, but as you know, Brian, very optimistic and never likes to say no to a challenge. So I do remember this being one of our first challenges. Is we created this on our CNC. So basically took a big chunk of metal and then had to do all the contours and stuff. That I remember, we've never done anything like this before. So it was really, for us, it was fun. It also helps us increase our capabilities, right? So now somebody comes, oh yeah, we've done that before. Yeah. So basically you just put the blank die in here and then.
Yeah, so it just sets in there. There's a little pin that holds it in place.
Nice. I know this was the prototype, and I believe you have the final one that we had at your shop, which is mounted on.
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't bring that for you guys because it's glued to
the main concept is we would push that, and this would push down, and it would form your.
Yeah, and this is what we wind up with here is a perfectly formed blank. There's no hammer marks because my older ones all had hammer marks in them. So now they're just perfect. It's amazing how perfect it works.
You said these replicate, was it juvenile?
Yeah, so originally it was, my goal was to mimic juvenile rainbow trout.
Okay.
That's kind of one of the main baits that I like to use for trout fishing. It just seems to work really well. And I think the more it looks like it, the more likely you are to catch a fish on it. So, and having the bend and stuff perfect, it allows the bait to swim and wobble really well. And that was a challenge I had when I hand hammered them, is some would be bent more, some would be bent less, you know, kind of a lot of inconsistencies there. That's all been eliminated now. Now they swim perfectly, they're all the same.
So you've tested them out, so they work?
Oh yeah. Yeah, the last fishing trip I went on, I fished mainly this pattern here, and that was after using the forming dye. And we caught easily 200 fish on that trip.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's when I was like, well, I'm really onto something here. I've got to get these into more hands.
Yeah.
So this is something we may do here in the future. I've got to get some people to catch fish on them. That's always a motivation to invest money, right? Got to make sure it works. But this is this is a smelt. So a smelt is one of the most common forage fish along the West Coast. So everything eats them. Halibut eats them, bass eats them, salmon eat them. This is one I handmade. We'll probably go with something a little bit smaller than that, maybe a little thicker. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to hand hammer them for a bit until I can invest in another forming die from you guys. But hopefully that's in the works.
I'm sure we could. I'm sure we could work something out.
I know you guys can pull it off. So. Yeah, I didn't have no drawing. All I had was this blank right here. And it was one of the last few that I had on hand. I gave this blank to Brian. He created a CAD of it, and then he produced this, which was very much spot on for, I mean, they match perfectly. So after, hammering out hundreds of these things, I had to come up with a way to simplify the process. It was just too much to hammer all these, and the consistency was just not there. So I think I emailed you guys again and said, hey, is there any way that, you guys have the means to make some type of forming die, something simple that's just, not going to cost me an arm and a leg, because that's the biggest problem. If I go to a stamping place, they're going to charge me thousands of dollars to do all this stuff. So that was just something I don't have the budget for. So we met up, and I had one that I had tested out in my swimming pool to make sure it had the perfect bend and swim action to it. Brian took that. I'm not sure what Brian did on his end, how he works his magic here, but that's when he presented us with this.
He sent you a drawing or a concept.
Yeah, he sent me an email, said this is everything that needs to be done. Gave me a quote on it, which was much cheaper than anywhere else that I had gone to. So I told him, do it. And that's when he came up with this.
I believe we made you one, if I'm not correct, because again, he's using this and trying to match the curvature and the form of your lure. But I believe we made the first one, and it wasn't quite, if I remember correctly, Yeah, I think it was causing a little bit of crease up here on this bend. He was able to correct that somehow. I'm not sure exactly what he did. So we made so basically we considered this your prototype, and we kind of tweaked the angles and what we needed and made a second one. Yeah,
and the second one has alignment rods with springs. It's really nicely done. Works fabulous. It takes seconds to form a blank now, as opposed to several minutes in the past. There's no markings, there's no creases, pretty much perfect in every way.
So overall, how was your experience, would you say, working with D&B?
I would say it's been great, and I can't wait to do more business with you guys. I'm hoping to, at some point, come up with several different designs, sizes, because that's a big thing. A lot of people consider this too big, which is surprising because it's really not, but some people want them even smaller and some people want them even bigger. That's actually a challenge I have right now, and fishermen are picky. They like certain colors, certain sizes, so we got to meet all those needs.
Sounds good. Well, we look forward to it.